Welcome everyone to our 11th episodes of Hunting for Suspenders and Stilettos.
The podcast where we explore the edges of leadership. In other words, we get to say bollocks. I'm John. I'm calling in from Cambridge in the UK.
And I am Man. I'm calling from Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I'm French. And today we are going to talk about self-compassion, leadership essentials, or bollocks. And we actually have a great question for you to start with. Who are the three people you have the most compassion for?
And while you're thinking, we will acknowledge that Huda and Sarah aren't here today. Unfortunately, they'll be back next time. Hi, Huda and Sarah.
Hi.
So have you thought?
I'm curious if you, ladies and gentlemen, actually put yourself on the list.
When you suggested this question, and I didn't put myself on the list, even though that's the topic we're talking about, of compassion. So it's a great question.
I love that you're saying that to me now. I didn't know.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So let's start with how we define self-compassion, because it can sound a bit woo or new agey or hippy dippy, and I'd love to clear up some of that confusion. So let's start there.
Yeah, definitely. So self-compassion, what is it about? It's compassion. Like, for example, you would have for a friend, but the friend is yourself, in a way.
Simple.
And do you have another way of defining?
I love that. I mean, I love that. I think of it as treating yourself, talking to yourself in the same way that you would treat and talk to a good friend. If we can be mindful of how we're talking to ourselves, and then think, is that how I would talk to my friend Joe or my friend Mark? Or like, would I actually say that to them? And if not, perhaps it's not going to be the most useful thing to be saying to myself.
Yeah. For me, it's really about, when there is someone coming to your place and, to like sort of telling a lot of things about how they are treating themselves bad because they don't really realize it. And you say, why would you say that to yourself? And having this positive mindset, sort of is linked to that positive mindset, positive way of thinking.
Yeah. I think people think, and certainly, it resonates for me as well. We all do it. So we all talk to ourselves quite harshly and quite critically at times, and some of us better than others. I think I've got better at it, but it's definitely still there. And I think the part of that is it feels like that's what's needed to motivate me. Like it feels like serves a purpose because it's motivating me. But I think if I say someone's got a fear of failure, is it better to say, give it a go, but it's fine if you fail. It doesn't matter if you fail. Is that the compassionate thing to say, or is the compassionate thing to say, look, this might be tough. Give it all you've got. Do your very, very best. Work through the tough times. I believe in you. I think you can achieve this. And if you don't, it's not the end of the world. There is always something to learn. You get to bounce back. There's a chance to build your resilience. And that to me is the compassionate thing to say, not the, don't worry about it. Just like, it's fine because it's not that important, because there are important things we're up to, and there can be hard work.
And what I love about that is that when we do that, when we have a bit of that self-compassion and that we have this sort of growing mindset, it's actually lowering the stress. And when we have less stress, our levels of oxytocin, our level of cortisol are actually going down. And then basically we are more in a state of flow. And with a state of flow, we can actually achieve more than what we think. So it's like, it's antinomic, because I think we were sort of raised with this idea that, you have to work hard and that work hard means it needs to be difficult and sort of paddling through things like
flagellate yourself to
exactly. We can work hard and with pleasure. I mean, we don't have to work hard and without and having stress. We can also be in a state of flow, and for that we need this self-compassion.
I think it's critical. And sometimes it is, even with the self-compassion, there's still stress, because we might be up to something that matters to us, but it certainly lowers the stress, right? I love that you bring in the neuroscience in. That's it's pretty clear that it's a powerful way. If we talk to ourselves in the right way, it's a powerful way to lower our stress.
Yeah.
How do we let's connect this to leadership, because that's what we talk about on these calls. So, we're touching on it there around work, but what's your thinking on how this enhances leadership?
Well, to me, it's also a sort of leading by example in a way, like if you are self-compassionate, you will have lower stress, and you will have like a response. You will not be in a reactive mode with people, so you will be more efficient in the way of dealing with your teams. So to me, it's like it's a no-brainer in a way. And it does require to practice, because it's not we were not born with, or maybe we were born but we learned it, and then we have to relearn it.
Yeah, it's free, but it doesn't necessarily come easily.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if I connect it to leadership, I think there's something in there about knowing who you are and knowing your values, and that I think if you self-compassion, and I'm sort of just speculating on the spot here, but I wonder if self-compassion is difficult if you don't really know who you are. You haven't quite defined who you are as a person, but also as a leader. Like if you know that you are doing your best and you're standing in your values and your leadership style and whatever you're up to in your leadership, you're working towards, and you're working towards that impact that you want to have as a leader, then self-compassion, when things aren't going so well or when it is stressful, then the self-compassion, I think, can flow a bit easier, because you can say things to yourself like, I'm doing my best, I'm standing by my values, I'm being the person I want to be.
And also when you know yourself, you also sort of know your flaws as well. So then you identify your flaws quite quicker, and then you can say, oh yeah, I'm doing that. And so, and do you have the choice of how you're going to treat that, instead of it like either like sort of beating yourself up, or okay, so that how can I do that differently,
That's a really good point. Like if you know that you've got some challenges in your leadership, and who doesn't, in your own leadership, in your own style, then without self-compassion, it's going to be very difficult to own those and take responsibility for those in a public way. You'd probably be more inclined to hide them. There might be some shame associated with that, or some embarrassment, or whatever it is. Whereas with some self-compassion, you would be able to much more easily say, hey team, I know sometimes I can be overly micromanaging, or whatever it is, and I'm working on that, and I want your help. I want your help with that. That is going to be a lot easier if you're friendly to yourself, and you're
and what it brings. So I'm thinking of a concept, and I can't find the word anymore, but it's giving yourself permission. Okay, that's full permission. So when you give yourself full permission, you actually leaving the option for others to also have
Right.
full permission. And then when you are free of all those barriers and of like being having a flow or being mistaken, then suddenly you become more creative, and then I think then you're more efficient. It's all about, it's all about efficiency in a way, you're becoming, because you have more flow, you're becoming more efficient. And when we're talking about corporate work and leadership, there is a lot of goals to be met and things to be done. And a lot of the time, I think my clients, or I think yours as well, John, is like I think a lot of their time is spent into those thoughts or like energy to criticize themselves, and then instead of actually doing the actual
There
work.
can be a lot of overthinking. I think, that if there isn't, if we're overly critical of ourselves, that can lead to a lot of overthinking. And the thing you said there is about modeling as well. Like if you can model that openness and vulnerability and self-compassion, then others will open up and see that that's okay. It creates safety. So many benefits.
The safety piece is important, especially when we are in a group, to bring that safety. It's one of the first principles as a coach, individual coaching or team coaching, to design the or alliance or the contract that we have between the coach and the client, to make sure that we bring this level of safety, to have this openness, to be free to be who we are, and to explore all of our strength, in the sense.
And a one-to-one coaching conversation is often a microcosm of a broader like leadership, someone who is a leader and the challenges they face as a leader. Often the coaching conversation is a microcosm, so we can bring as coaches an environment where people are able to look at themselves and treat themselves more self-compassionately. I don't know what you bring in around that, but I might ask a client, okay, maybe it's a really challenging situation, maybe there's a lot of stress, just to simply ask, what's the most compassionate thing you can say to yourself at the moment? What's the friendliest thing you can say to yourself at this time? And that can often bring quite a lot of relief, because people will often say things like, I'm doing the best I can. And just that can bring a lot of relief.
I'm thinking of also self-compassion. It's offering a way to slow down, which is necessary in the fast-paced environment that we have with all the social media, the growth of all the companies. All this is about quicker. Self-compassion requires also, it gives practices to actually reflect. It's a reflection space as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That reminds me of one of the principles of self-compassion, which is mindful awareness of our emotions and our moods. So it's definitely not about trying to paper over the stress or whatever's going on for us. It's about being able to be more of an observer of that and detach a little bit from it, but not try to deny or overplay what's going on, but a mindful acceptance of what we're experiencing, and then bringing compassion to that. Like, I notice I'm experiencing at the moment a lot of stress, to create a little bit of distance and compassion around it.
Maybe because a lot of the time we want to avoid these emotions, and so it's not about using self-compassion, sort of to get rid of those emotions. Actually, the self-compassion will be a way to sort of to accept the state we are in. And by accepting the state we are in, we can sort of move forward in that sense. So it's
Yeah.
we're not here to fight or suppress those feelings. We're just here to sort of comprehend them and give them a space.
It's one of those paradoxes that the more we try to get rid of an unwelcome emotion, the more it tends to hang around, and our mindful acceptance of it is what tends to start it moving.
Yeah.
We're moving a little bit into practicalities of how we do self-compassion.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could expand on
And
that.
John, maybe just before we're going there,
Mm.
because there is always a metaphor I like to use about that, about when we need an extra a liver and a transplant. That's the word. Like we have something external, and it's sort of our body is fighting against it, but once we sort of accept it, then we can sort of live fully. And it's a bit like that, I think. I don't know why I'm always thinking of that, but for me it's about that, or about, okay, leave it some space, or to actually live within you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. The first thing I want to say around those sort of the behaviors, the action, the doing of self-compassion is it needs to, that there is a sort of being and doing part here. So when we talk about, say, self-care, that can definitely be something that people paper over the top of emotions they don't want to face, or something they really don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
I like to think of it the other way around. If we can bring ourselves some self-compassion, then the self-care naturally follows. If our way of being is that we have self-compassion, that we are friendly to ourselves, then the things we do tend to naturally flow from that. And there are some practices. Would you maybe talk about some practices around self-compassion that help develop that?
Yeah. So I think it can. There are many ways to do practices. Some might not appeal. Like I know, for example, there are sort of soothing touch. For example, I mean it's sort of calming your nervous system. But things that, or maybe some people would find that maybe it's a little bit weird. Okay, then that's okay. Then there is a part we can do some journaling as well, or at the end of our day, like, okay, what went well, and sort of reflecting on this, taking a break also regularly in the day. It's for many reasons that we should take breaks, especially now we are working in front of computers all the time. So there is an element of self-care, but there's also an element for just our sight, just looking away. It can be as long as 30 seconds. I think it's already something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not now. You're watching us. Wait till the end.
Oh yeah.
I personally, when I think about it, this when I first did this, I thought, it's a bit strange, and it's not something that I've particularly embraced. Although I appreciate now that there can be something soothing about it. I think actually, for me, the biggest thing is simply to notice my thoughts. This is where a mindfulness practice is really useful. To be able to notice your thoughts and just ask yourself, is this friendly? Is this what I'd say to a friend? And if not, then ask what you would say to a good friend, and try that on for size. So it's not like we have to do anything particularly deep here. It's actually quite a simple process.
I think if you are not sold already about self compassion, I'd like to add some of the benefits, of self compassion. It does enhance the decision making and empathy, and also emotional regulation. Obviously, because you're actually practicing it, so that's quite it does foster kindness. And I do believe that, if you're being kind to others, then you receive kindness as well. So, like, I mean, that's also for me a no-brainer. And there is something very we talked about it at the very beginning, but it does reduce stress, and it strengthens our immune system. So I think there is a lot of benefits to practice self-compassion.
Yeah. What would I add? You know, sometimes we have to do hard things, and one of the practices that I developed, which I find equally helpful and amusing at how ridiculous it is if I do a chore, one of the things that's more like a chore in my business, say, some of the things I don't really want to do, some of the admin, but I actually set time aside and do it. I will sometimes literally pat myself on the back and say, well done. And I think this is ridiculous, but I actually feel better for doing it. So, you know, try that on for size. Yeah. And to your point, I think there's, when we recognize that everyone has their struggles and suffering, and everyone's suffering in some way, if we can bring that kindness to them, bring that kindness to ourselves, it connects us more as well. I think it has us be less isolated, which is all to the good. Yeah. What's one last thing you'd like to wrap up with here, Anne?
I would say being cheesy, but like go for it, you know. Self-compassion is great.
Yeah, find your way. And we've got a book reference, actually. Let me just pop that up.
Oh yeah, sure.
This is this book, Self-Compassion.
Christine Neff. She does has a PhD on that. So like, come on, go and look at it. She also knows, has a website.
Yeah, she knows it's not bollocks. So I'd go and have a look at that, and you know, find your practice that works for you.
Yeah.
And Thank you for joining us on this, which I didn't share at the beginning. There we go. That's what we've been discussing.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.